in each of our countries to assist Cuba. And we have a duty in Nigeria to reorganize the solidarity movement to ensure that we launch an appeal fund so that we can give humanitarian support to the Cuban people. We want to take advantage of this forum to commend the government of Namibia for donating the sum of $700,000 to the Cuban people. Ghana also donated fund support to the Cuban people about a year ago. We are calling on all other African countries to show similar solidarity to the Cuban people. Let me just say this. I think when we have Ebola, when we have Ebola crisis, 2014, Ebola crisis. So this one is very important. The West stigmatized Africans. And they were not going to allow Africans to even to go to anywhere. Cuba sent a medical brigade, a plane full of doctors and other medical personnel to 3 countries where people were dying. Liberia, Guinea, and Sierra Leone. And it was those Cuban doctors that saved the lives of our people. During the pandemic, 2020 pandemic, Cuba sent doctors to 33 countries in Africa, including South Africa, Togo, and many others. Including Italy, one of the G7, a member of the G7. It was Cuba that saved the lives of Italians. And so when Mr. Trump told the Italian government, expel these medical doctors from Cuba, they told Mr. Trump, no. You are not going to tell us who is going to save the lives of our people. So while America sent troops to countries to kill people, Cuba sent doctors to the world to save lives. So for all of us as Africans, it's not just that we are gathered to honor Fidel Castro. We are also here today to honor the entire Cuban people, and particularly to commend them and support them in their going through hardship, the worst that country has ever gone through in our history. Whatever we can do, nothing is small to support people who are determined to reject imperialism. I thank you, Congress. Okay, let me quickly bring our own mother too, and an icon of our struggle, right from our student days, who just joined us now from after it's ever here for us to support an episode. I will give over to the ambassador.
Okay. Good afternoon now. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Conrad Femi, for your work about our situation and also about our leader that we celebrating today the centenary. But I want to call in because for us it's very important to remember Commandant Fidel in his centenary. But I come to continue if we are doing well. I want to ask if you think the event will end before of after. But I want to call in you for a minute of silence on behalf of 2 of our comrades, Conrad de Motayo and Conrad de Fidelis Aret, because the spirit of state is with us today. Thank you very much.
You.
So, oh, it's too much emotion, no? Because, that we are very close to those things. I think that if the solidarity move in Nigeria has been strong, it's because, for example, of the two men, than Montaño and Ares.
Talk of Ramsey.
Ares and Moncora de Montaño. You understand, no?
Yes.
Ares and Montaño.
Yes, like her.
Okay. So, they are members of the Nigerian Cuban Solidarity Movement. Uh, I have one also member of the Cuban Graduating Association here. Dr. Tommy is here.
Doctor.
Tommy. Okay. Brother and sister, Conrades. A few men and women are born whose work and legacy become permanently cement in the world history. One such figure is, without any doubt, our Commander in Chief Fidel Castro, whose centenary is being honored by all Cubans and revolutionaries across the globe. This centenary celebration, which has spanned the period from August 2025 to the present day, is not merely a tribute to his immense legacy. It is also a call to realize his ideals in a world defined by crisis and confrontation. Furthermore, it serves to reaffirm our respect for an unwavering commitment to the ideals and example of a man who championed the banner of independence and sovereignty, as well as respect and dignity for humanity. Fidel, revolutionary truth and an action remain crucial at a time when the United States government, led by President Trump, believes it can finalize in an inality Cuba has become of independence by destroying its example and influence. His thinking was, and remained, a legacy for many other revolutionary movements, offering the world a geostrategic renewal of the struggle that no imperialist force could destroy. This revolutionary impression anti-combat action also made an impact in Africa, where Cubans fought side by side with their brother and sister to put end to the apartheid regime once and for all, watering the enduring roots of Independence Day on block. In a world where self-help, war, and injustice are resurging, Fidel legacy called upon us to defend the sovereignty of the people against any form of domination, practices international solidarity, work toward and truth in unity as invincible forces, and further value of justice and equity. Once again, we call up our brother and sister of Nigeria and the world to continue demanding the total, unconditional, and immediate lifting of the economic, commercial, and financial blockade imposed by the United States government against Cuba. Likewise, we must redouble our efforts to security Cubans removal from the list of the nation false accused of sponsor of terrorists, as well as the lifting of the recent sanctions against institutions and representatives across the country economic sectors. This included revoking the executive order of January 29 and May 1st, which has severe impact to the Cuban people and triggered the humanity crisis currently causing death, particularly among children and elders. In our country, the primary architects of this were President Donald Trump and the Secretary of the State, Marco Rubio. driving by a ruthless obsession with Cuba. They devised a criminal plan to suffocate an entire people and fabricate pretexts to justify a military intervention in Cuba. If they approve the one full blockade, they condemn my people for the debt. Because if you count the possibility of the one country they need, the more than 60% of the fuel the country needs, and they not receive any fuel in more than 200 days, 6 months till now, since January till now, they want to make the collapse. They are fixed to the Cuban people. To tell just a few examples as the of July 11, the consequences of this U.S. imposed suffocate in Cuba include, listen to me, mortality rates from 4.0 to 9.9, representing the death of over 18,000 children so far this year. You can imagine. I think that the you are here, no, the Cuban is at the potential in the health system. But you can imagine the suffering of my people, of my government, when we listen this, it's not only the one statistic, it's the reality. The last week, 27 children died. Last week, in 1 week, because if the mother not have all the medicine, not have the old drug, not have the good uh, provided the good element, or sometimes they don't have electricity for the incubator or for good oxygen. You can imagine the 4.0 to 9.9 in 6 months. This is a good statistic. Life expectancy for children with cancer dropped from 85% to 65%. In Cuba, we have a special program with the children with cancer. Now, the number of the deaths coming up. The surgical waiting to list except surgical waiting for list except 100,000 birthdays, including more than 12,000 children and 5,152 cancer patients. You can imagine, never before in our history. 10,000 patients waiting for surgical because we can put in the whole polyclinic the photovoltaic system, the panel solar system, but they don't have power for open the surgical theater. For that, in the majority of the case, our doctor finalize the operation, the surgical, by phone, the live phone, for solve the life. Last week, I refer you 25 infants under the age of one died due to lack electricity and medicine. 44 in bank, this is another part of the sanction. 44 in bank have refused to do business with Cuba, and 140 bank transfer has been blockaded. Many of them relative to payment for solar or wind energy technology, because they know the Cuban island has the possibility to rely and to getting the energy by solar, and they also block this possibility. The French shipping, that is the months ago, the French shipping company CMA and CGM refused to continue transporting containers born from Cuba, some of which contain humanitarian aid and collected by international solidarity organizations. 3.5 million of syringes and needles intended for all healthcare system. The cargo was held in Jamaica and then continued in traveling to do fair of potential legal repercussion following the executive order issued by the White House on May 1st. The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, said the last week any of possibility that the Cuban open, even if it's very short, a small one, we close. This is the tendency now. Every week they disclose new sanction. Every week they disclose new measurement. Again, to the all potential in Cuba, the coming growing for developing in our for work for is a good prosperity with our population. The last week, no, the last month, they put the sanction against ICAP, our friendship, International Friendship Institute for the People of Cuba. And now they put sanction to the president of ICAP, Fernando, the one of the our 5 year. And they also they put the sanction against our president, the wife of our president, the president, our former president Raúl, the one of the his son and the one of the his grandson. And we have the one a company, Gaesa, is the one company that they managed by civil military company. And also they put a big sanction. Why? Because they accuse that the Gaesa is the one company they cleaning money. They because they say they have 18,000 million abroad and the one paradise, fiscal paradise, but that is not true. It's true that the one that company have money, but if you put the sanction on one island, if you put the sanction to the different international organization or international uh, company, you need to looking for is your sovereignty. You looking for how you come to manage it at the economical, how you buy this and you buy that for your people. The drug now they cancel many contracts and the agreement that they will have for the medical company for getting the drug off from materials because we have the one and strong pharmaceutical and biotechnological industry. But they put all these obstacles for not having a good prosperity and development in our country. This is I use a few thousand examples illustrating that the harm caused by unjust policy of the United States government. However, in this special occasion, I wish to express on behalf of my government of the Cuban people, first our thanks to the government of Nigeria because they accompany us as a multilateral area in designing and support Cuba together with the African Union and the General Assembly of United Nations in the put end of the just blockade. We need to say thank you to the government of Nigeria for this support. Our deep gratitude for the messages of solidarity and support we have received on these sister nations. As yesterday reaffirmed that the spirit of struggle of international solidarity remains more alive than ever in this era of Nigeria. For this reason, Fidel, as the centenary, is no ordinary celebration. It is a response to the urgent need for its idea, an action to prepare in our endeavors and revolutionary, its creator and has men and women who will never force his legacy and his essence life. Let me tell you before the end that we reaffirm today the Cuban continued in his position in defense of our independence and sovereignty. Never before, because in Cuba today
the solidarity, the Cuban with Cuban, coming more growing and more strong. Because as this in the all of history that we say, we're not sharing that we have enough. No, we're sharing the small half we have. That is today in Cuba. Today in Cuba, the people that they have the one panel solar in the big house, now in this period of the vacation for the kids, they put the panel, this possibility for all the block and the many kids on the block coming to this house for see the TV. If they preparing some brief or something, and they preparing for that family, they don't have opportunity for give. This blockade today affect the agricultural production because if the people in the farm not have fuel, need to buy fuel for more, but very high price, need to put very high price for the product. And they want not can to make that because that is not part of our spirit of unity in Cuba. For that, I'm reassured of you. The Cuba maintain in the same position. The Cuba maintain the idea that they are reassured not only my current president Miguel Diaz-Canel Bermudez, also Fidel and Raúl, they say that we are open for the conversation, for the dialogue, for a good relation, but in respect and without any uh, uh, concession or any condition. Because for us, even now, the Cuban government approved 167 new economic and social measures. No, it is we not approve because we have under pressure or condition. We work on it since a years ago. That we opened like since the 1997 for the external investment investor. And we now provide also the Cubans abroad coming to investment in Cuba too. And it has many new measurements. But even with all these measurements, even when the Cuban people talk about the one possibility of open the dialogue, they continue push and pour more sanction to the Cuban people. More and more one. For that, we are here and we are take you and also the last uh, August 13 to another group of solidarity in Abuya. Thank you so much for your permanent support to Cuba. Thank you for your continued follow our people, our revolution, our process, because humanity is for all. And then we need together and in unity continue our struggle. Thank you so much.
Saluta continua, Victoria Santa, Amanda Wilson, Nancy Shadis Pavetta, Nancy Shadis Pavetta, Nancy Shadis Pavetta, Nancy Shadis Pavetta, Nancy Shadis Pavetta. Victoria Santa, Amanda Wilson, Natisha Discoveration. Is one like to in Africa.
Viva, comandante el jefe Fidel Castro, viva.
Viva!
Solidarity, viva.
Viva!
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Comrade Ambassador, I know you are going to take your leave very soon, but I want to assure you that what we're organizing today will be continued, and we want to also assure you that the struggle of the Cuban people is also the struggle of our first people in Nigeria and not other parts of Africa. And indeed, the third world. What Fidel Castro stood for. If we're here for the next 2 days, we cannot conclude. That was the last point. And you didn't make. I realized. At a stage, the entire third world country, poor people, were indebted to imperialism. Fidel it was who started the campaign in 1979. That these debts of IMF and World Bank and the rest of them are collectible because they are unpaid.
That's right.
That was one. So when the likes of Obasanjo tell you, oh, we won Paris Club, it was Fidel that started that campaign. So please, please let the Cuban people know that they have friends in Nigeria. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming. Just say your comment.
Sorry, because I need to travel urgently. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Yes, welcome. While our current ambassador was speaking, when joined on the high table, our current who has been described as See, never went very well, but for the young one, you know. Thank you very much for coming. Team will allow you to sit down, you know. We're going to call comrades to waiting now to make a social contribution. I'm not a bye.
Your response made me remember the row going on in the country about good morning, Mr. Tony. Because Commander was like 16, good morning, Tony. Commander just said 16 in me. But when we call you Mama, it is a recognition of all of the sacrifice, all of the contribution to the struggle. We welcome you.
And the young ones like you that have been brought up.
And that will have been inspired to also continue the path. Comrades, ladies and gentlemen, I would just like to make a few comments because obviously all of the key points I believe have already been made. We have heard about the suffering going on in Cuba right now because of the decision of US imperialism to snuff out the revolution, the Cuban revolution. And I feel that there's a need for us to strike very, very clearly that this is not just an attack, it's actually a counter-revolutionary attack. It's an effort to destroy the entirety of the legacy of the Cuban Revolution. And it did not just start now. The Cuban Revolution became victorious on the 1st of January 1959. 3 years after, you had what you call the Bay of Pigs invasion, which was a military invasion by US imperialism using so-called Cuban immigrants. But these people were actually harmed by the United States, with United States operatives also among them. They invaded the island of Cuba with the intention to destroy that revolution, to wipe out the regime, and not just the regime, but also wipe out the revolutionary people. Because the Cuban Revolution was not a military coup. It wasn't a change of government. It started as a social revolution, and then a few years after became a socialist revolution. Because the Bay of Pigs invasion happened at this time. After Fidel Castro, Che Guevara, and other leaders of the Cuban Revolution openly declared for socialism and began to take measures against, the multinational companies and firms, which had turned the Cuban economy into a playground. Cuba at that time was seen as a playground of the US. It's geographically located around United States. So it's seen as a place where United States big men and women go to enjoy themselves and spend dollars. In fact, the prostitution and casino was one of the major highlights of Cuban existence at that time because the US dollar became the lifeline for the people. The revolution of 1959 was what changed that economically, politically, and socially. And the fear of how far the revolution could go, the example of socialism it could present on the shores of the United States, and what that would mean for the working people in Latin America, in the United States itself, and across the world, was what created the US imperialist hostility that you have had over the past decades. They failed in the Bay of Pigs invasion, despite the superior arms and ammunitions. The Cuban people, led by Fidel Castro, when I say led by Fidel Castro, it wasn't that Fidel Castro was in his office, commandeering the army. He was at the forefront, at the shore. All of the major Cuban revolutionary leadership. And in 72 hours, they defeated that invasion. And from that period onwards, the United States has carried out more than 600 assassination attempts against Fidel Castro himself and other leaders of the Cuban Revolution. When the four worker state of the Soviet Union and the Eastern Europe collapsed in the late 80s and 90s, the impression was that the Cuban Revolution would also collapse afterwards. In fact, there was an interview that I think came out a year or so before Fidel Castro died, that Fidel Castro had with a journalist, where he talked of how much pressure was piled on the Cuban regime through different individuals and agents to try and make the Cuban regime to restore capitalism on the island. Because for a whole historical period, the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe became a lifeline for the Cuban economy in terms of subsidies and all of that. But when that collapsed, Fidel Castro insisted that even at the pain of death, the legacy of the Cuban Revolution would continue. And I'm saying all of this so that we can all understand how far the Cuban people have come. They have tried to build a socialist economy in one of the most backward regions of the world while facing military, naval, and economic blockade for decades. What Trump is doing now is actually building on the legacy that other United States presidents have established since 1962, which is that the Cuban Revolution must not be allowed to survive. And despite all of this, Cuba was not just able to maintain the legacy of the revolution in terms of healthcare, in terms of free education. I'm not sure that has been mentioned by previous speakers. For every Cuban person, education is free. Medical health free. Healthcare in Cuba is not like what we have in Nigeria, where you go to the hospital to go and wait for your doctors. Doctors are given constituencies to cover. Doctors go from street to street to visit the people. That is the kind of public health care that the Cuban Revolution established. And that is why some of the statistics the ambassador read out, in terms of how, for a period, the Cuban Revolution was able to provide an immense and progressive advancement in the human condition in Cuba in terms of infant mortality, in terms of life expectancy. It was because of that planned economy. Today, because of the embargo, because of the attempt by the US imperialism to snuff out that revolution, all of this is now in reverse. Now you have cases of malnutrition in Cuba too. What we have to say in this room today is to say that the Nigerian working people, the Nigerian youth, and the Nigerian oppressed people will not stand by and allow the Cuban revolution to be destroyed. That decision we must make at this time. And in making that decision, we're not just making it because we want to defend Cuba. We're not just making it because we have a debt of gratitude to pay to Cuba. Indeed, we have. And I think Falana has already made that point very clear. There's hardly anywhere in Africa that can claim to have a modicum of sovereignty today, a modicum of independence today, that Cuban regime did not play on. And then afterwards. But we must stand for Cuba also because in Cuba, and what is happening with Cuba today, with the imperialist aggression, we see what we are going to face everywhere in Africa when the people actually stand up to overthrow their own oppressors. So, in standing with Cuba, we are saying that in Nigeria, we have the right to overthrow President Tinubu and his gang of thieves. And nobody, no country can therefore come to attack us because of that. Because the whole idea of a nation and of a people is that you have what is called sovereignty. What is sovereignty? The rights and the power to determine your own destiny. So we must stand with Cuba to show that example. Because in doing that, it means that when the hour of our revolution strikes, we can be sure that Togo will stand with us, that Benin Republic will stand with us, that workers in all of these countries will stand by us. And that is why the request of the Cuban ambassador here at this meeting, I believe, must be taken with all seriousness. We must begin to discuss what can we do as the working people. I have no belief or expectation whatsoever that the Cuban revolution will get any support that's ready from the Nigerian government. The Nigerian government that gave solidarity to South Africa back in the 80s is different from what we have now. That was made clear. The gangsters who run most of the countries in Africa today, the capitalist gangsters, have more to fear from the survival of the Cuban revolution than even Trump. I mean, just look at the statistics the ambassador read out. I was talking about 27 children died in 1 week. We now, Nigeria, first and foremost, which Nigerian ambassador knows how many people are beaten in Lagos State? It's a sign that this is a government that is with the people of the people. How many does Tinubu know how many of his citizens have died anywhere? Our people in Borno, parents still came out 2 days ago. 100 days of their children in captivity. So where I'm going therefore is that this call for solidarity from Cuba can only be answered by the working and toiling people of Nigeria. And that, therefore, should be the cornerstone of the decision we take. I think that one of the things we must say in this room is that this kind of discussion must continue. We have anchored it around the centenary of Fidel Castro. But then it must go on. Cuba is in peril. It's either the US launches an invasion along the lines of what they did in January in Venezuela, or because they also fear the Cuban people. The memory of the Bay of Peace invasion is still very fresh. They know that Cuba is different, and they have a history of fighting and defeating US imperialism. There's also the fear of what is going on in Iran now, a war they have gotten into, and they don't know how to get out again. Which is why it is also possible that we may not have a US military invasion of Cuba, but they continue to tighten the noose around this country, hoping that as the economic situation becomes unbearable, then their counter-revolutionary forces that they already have in place can then rise up to do a regime change. That is also very, very possible. And that is why we must take it with all seriousness. I think that one of the things we have to say is that right from this room, we are launching a hands-off Cuban campaign that we are going to take to all campuses across the country. We are going to take to all communities, because many people don't even know why Cuba is important. Well, many people don't even know about the Cuban Revolution. Young people today are so much removed from the history of struggle. And I think that we have a duty to use this kind of campaign to first and foremost raise the consciousness of the mass of the people, most importantly the young people, about what Cuba stands for and why it must be defended. We can also use online means for this. This kind of program can hold as a tutor space, using that to draw a new generation into the discussion about what Cuba stands for. And we must also make the effort, because Falana made a point about Fidel Castro's trial and the statement he delivered at that trial. It was one of the books that my generation read in the early 2000s, which inspired us to decide to commit our lives to struggle and revolution. You cannot read that book and you not receive the fire of the Cuban Revolution. He was a man who was on trial. He was captured after a revolutionary uprising in which his colleagues, some of them were killed. Some of them were subjected to the most brutal torture. One of them, a sister and a brother, were being interrogated. And the brother's eyes, if I remember clearly, was plucked out and shown to the sister. So this was somebody who was coming from that situation. And yet he stood before a judge and told him, jail me today, but the revolution must continue. I think that we need to also get some of these literatures out. It's part of the process of raising the consciousness of a new generation,
Young people.
especially young people, about what Cuba stands for. Secondly, is that I think that we have to take a decision at this meeting also to begin to look at a possibility of naming a day of action, starting here in Nigeria, but which can then be adopted and replicated across Africa. A day of action to stand with Cuba and the Cuban people, involving protests and demonstrations, different places across the country, and most importantly, occupation of the US embassy. Not to send a clear message to Donald Trump that if there is any attack on Cuba, the Cuban people will not be alone. Everywhere across Africa and across the world, the Cuban people will be defended with all means necessary. We need to send that kind of message through such actions. Finally, I think that we also need to raise the campaign within the labor movement. Labor has the power. In most places where a struggle against militarism has succeeded, it has always required the power of labor. It's labor that controls the ports. It's labor that controls production, whether of food, materials, and even
Distribution as well.
distribution of military assets and all of this. The Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress needs to go beyond just diplomatic solidarity with Cuba. They have done a lot already. I'm not saying they have not done anything. But given what Cuba is facing now, because Cuba is in a race against time, how long can the people survive starvation and malnutrition? How long can the people survive the brutal condition that is taking place in Cuba? Prostitution, which has been abolished since the 60s in Cuba, has now resurrected. And any society where prostitution resurrects is a sign of complete social decay and crisis. People are desperate for survival, and survival with any means necessary. And that is why we must talk to our labor leadership. If one day general strike in Nigeria, for Cuba, for the Cuban people, will be one of the ways of restoring the tradition and spirit of international solidarity that used to be part of the program of the labor movement in Nigeria now. And if the labor movement in Nigeria can do that, it can set an example for the labor movement across Africa and across the world. Thank you very much.
The people united can never be defeated. The people united can never be defeated. Okay, just before I hand over the microphone back to Comrade Level, let me quickly bring one of our comrades who is also a lawyer. Fidel was a lawyer too. So please also join us on this session. Comrade Kuman Malachis is less.
Thank you very much, Comrade. I think it's important to make this point. The Bay of Pigs invasion of 1962 that Comrade Soweto spoke about was actually under President Kennedy. Many of you have one of these guys as heroes. They are criminal. Obama it was, Obama and Madam Clinton.
We invaded Libya.
That coordinated the invasion of Libya. So that we must all know when the rain began to beat us. The other point is that I met somebody yesterday, a big guy, those who are containing diseases in Nigeria. I said, gentlemen, you guys are still controlling malaria. Why don't we abolish it? So, well, it's difficult, yeah. Cuba abolished malaria fever in 1967. Do you understand me? It's not about building nets, mosquito nets. Because the West asked Nigeria, take a loan and build mosquito nets. How many homes can mosquito nets cover? But Cuban people have developed a type of vaccine to contain. They had actually it's another type of mosquito, but it eats up the Anopheles mosquito that feeds on the blood of people. 1967. If you land in Cuba today, you are tested at the airport. and you have malaria, you are going to be quarantined. But they won't allow you to take it to town. So that is a society where people are organized. It's not like you have, last time I was in Cuba, 2021, the few medicine them jeeps, the SUVs I saw were driven by ambassadors. Do you understand me? In fact, Cubans still have the 1950 Pontiac
okay.
as taxis. The US has tried to buy off those vehicles, and they said, no, we want to retain them. So it's a country that was addressing problems of the people. But you know, I'm coming at the point. It's not just about defeating Cuba. It's about defeating socialism. And that is the plan of the West. And they must not be allowed to get one. Comrade, it's your turn.
Well, comrades, thank you very much. I want to start from where Soweto has ended, and that's the question of the demands and tax we must place before the labor movement going forward. Of course, a day of solidarity, a day of protest, a day of action. But again, too, and he has made a very vital and clear point. The Tinubu regime, and we want to challenge the Tinubu regime if it can't, because the Tinubu regime is a paid agent of the Trump regime. So it will not dare go against what Trump does not want. So we must call our own labor leaders, whatever minimal donation is possible within the funds of the labor movement, and use the channel and space of the labor movement to call on workers all over Nigeria. Even if you say Nigerians donate, workers donate 100 naira, from our funds everywhere in Nigeria. The president of the union is here. I'm saying this as a clear mark of declared solidarity to ordinary people in Cuba. My first take is to begin that subject. What is socialism? And I don't intend to read Marx or whatever before any person here. In spite of the difficulties Cuba has had to go through all of this period from 1959 till date, if you want to move the date to 1962, you can successfully do that. Cuba succeeded within its limited space, and not just limiting itself, to abolish all of the crises that capitalism has not been able to abolish in its experiment on the whole of African continent. In fact, when Soweto was referring to that example from the ambassador, I would rather return back to Nigeria, not to ask if Mr. President knows. It is how many people have died, how many children have died today. And yet, on the basis of a planned socialist economy, that society was transformed. The whole health sector was transformed to the point that Cuba began to export doctors all over the world. You cannot begin to count in facts, in computed figures, the resources the Cuban regime or the Cuban society expended in attacking diseases in Latin America and in Africa. And this was only possible on the basis of a planned economy, a planned cage economy in that matter. In that third point, you must also note that because they never had the freedom to freely exercise, they were under watch constantly and continuously by Western imperialism. And yet, in the face of all of that, it resolved the question of diseases among its people and got to the state that move away from the health sector, come to literacy. Illiteracy was completely abolished. What is Nigerian statistics with regards to capitalist development all of these years up to this very moment? It has not been able to resolve that on the basis of a planned economy. And this is why I think it's important that all of us who claim to be change seekers must draw there's no way forward
in the contradiction that this society of the ruling class has caged all of us. And for me, the first beginning and ending of solidarity with Cubans, with ordinary people in Cuba and Latin America, is you clearly coming to the position that there is no way forward for humanity, except on the basis of the socialist, ideas. Our resources for the people, if country is rich enough, and of course, we are an oil and gas producing country. On the basis of all of the role Cuba has played, why can't Nigeria, with its oil and gas, provide, oil, to Cuba? It will mean to do that. It means that we'll be confronting the Trump regime, and we must not shy away from it. Our duty is to place demand on them. So we must also come on the labor movement. Nigeria has oil. Nigeria has gas. Ordinary people are dying in Cuba. Nigerian government provide oil and gas to ordinary people in Cuba. We are not going to answer, but we have a duty to raise it, to use that to challenge them and further expose who they are and what they represent. This government does not represent the interests of ordinary people anywhere in the world. If it does, let them disappoint us by providing oil and gas cheaply, affordable, to people in Cuba. But let's come back. This same government has not been able to provide oil and gas to all of us, even in our own country. So don't think we don't know what this contradiction is. There is two other vital points that is important to make. And Maki Soweto has touched on that point, but we'll try to emphasize it. The resilience, the example of resilience that ordinary Cubans are demonstrating. The other option before the Trump regime, they can't take those measures because, as we made quite clear, Cuba is not Venezuela. They'll be confronted with a mass uprising. And again, August 13th, just last week, demonstrated that example with the millions of people on the streets celebrating and remembering Castro. So that option is not an option. But the option of thinking that they can squeeze Cuba continuously and bring about an uprising in Cuba will never work, will never happen. So it is important that we know that Cuba today is providing an example to each and every one of all of us of the strength and courage that is required to survive the attack of imperialism. And this point takes us to another very important point: internationalism. I will return to connect that to Nigeria. I'm not an ethnic nationalist. As a Marxist, I support the right of self-determination. But no single country can go declare Oduduwa Republic. We have the responsibility to children in the north who are not going to school. Your definition of ethnic nationalism or rebellion, where are you getting that definition from? That one person is Hausa, one person is Igbo. As a human being, you have a duty to those children on those streets that are being molested by the ruling class from that part of the world. And this is what Cuba has demonstrated unendingly. What is Cuba's business? In Angola, in Zimbabwe, in Mozambique, in South Africa, in Algeria, even in Nigeria, providing doctors to survive. You think a child in Kaduna is not your interest? You must put that question in your head and give me an answer to that question. No country is safe. And this is where socialism comes in. Socialism is an international idea. Why do you think Trump is going everywhere? Because capitalism is international. The market is everywhere. They want their goods and services everywhere. But we require that when these goods are produced, we are the ones producing it internationally everywhere. We want to be able to access it and use it. But how do you explain the contradictions of a Dangote refinery and the refusal of the Nigerian ruling class to dedicate a day's oil wealth to produce a refinery and ensure that we can all access fuel and gas cheaply, affordable to all of us? Or you think Tinubu and Co do not know that we have the means and resources to build a refinery for ourselves? But they're not going to do it. If they have spent 30, 40 years declaring a scam, there is a National Assembly report that all of the subsidy years was a scam. Where is that report today? So when Tinubu comes and announces to us that subsidy is a scam, This new process is also another scam.
Yes.
Because it has not made fuel available for you and I. Whether under subsidy is a scam and something is not a scam, the oil barons are still profiting and making billions on top of all of us. And the solution is what Cuba has offered: planned economy. And that planned economy will not emerge if we do not take all of the necessary steps to continue the process of organizing. So those for me are the key vital points that needs to be raised today. I join in sharing and expressing the necessary solidarity with all ordinary people in Cuba, and that your solidarity to those people in Cuba becomes more stronger if you take up the challenge to clear your mind of all of the faults of contradictions as to how change will come about. How did 1959 occur? What happened in 1917 in Russia? That process helped consolidated what happened in Cuba ultimately and what happened also in China in 1949 or thereabout. What will be the path appropriately to making a revolution? These are questions that events like this poses. Do we juxtapose ourselves under the control of some few armed men, cutting themselves away from the entirety of the mass of the working people in the process by which they organize, and think because they are armed, they will come to power? And if they come to power, what will be the process by which they consolidate? And that is another key lesson from the Cuban experience. Castro and co did not seclude themselves into an island. They broke away from the Communist Party and handed over control of the ideas of their affairs to building a different type of world of society. So even when you refer to Cuba as a guerrilla-led movement coming to power, you have a duty to clearly understand the processes by which it became a mass organization. Because ultimately, a revolution survives only on the basis of the mass involvement of the mass of the working people in the process of how the revolution is made. Because ultimately they are the ones that will sustain it. Our roles as cadres is to provide the organizational clarity and ideas to the mass of what of the working people, so that collectively together we make what? The revolution. I think Cuba offers continuous lessons for us to read. Hold on to these key lessons and begin to use all of these key experiences as to how we must organize. One lesson that Cuba doesn't offer to any one of us is sectarianism. One other lesson that Cuba does not offer to us is nationalism. And I hold no apology in whatever version you characterize your definition of what of nationalism. Because ultimately, no matter how national you are going to confront what capitalism is. Capitalism is international. And ultimately, you are going to be skewed if you do not take up the role of choosing your own people to ensure that capital, private and international, continues to make profit and super profit. Thank you very much, Kumar. Just about resources. Cuba's only resource or resources. And the Cuban resources are limited. Tourism. And America has banned people from going to Cuba. Airlines are no longer going there. Ships cannot go to Cuba. But the people are ready to suffer to defend their revolution. Comrade, you mentioned, if you have an Oduduwa Republic, they must be ready to defend children who are out of school in the north. In Lagos State, over 500,000 children are out of school. In Oyo State, 674,000 children are out of school. It's not a northern problem, it's a national tragedy that a country of immense resources have about 20 million children who are out of school. So, comment, it's a national tragedy. And we have a duty to learn from countries that have combated illiteracy. After the revolution, for 1 year, schools were shut down in Cuba, including tertiary institutions, and students were asked to go to the rural area to educate the people. And in 1 year, they defeated illiteracy. We had suggested to these guys that youth government members be deployed
to combat illiteracy in our country. But they don't want our people educated. They want them to remain illiterate. There is even a commission, a whole commission for adult literacy. They only collect money. They don't do anything. There is UBEC. At a stage, about 250 billion naira was not accessed by state government because they are required to pay counterpart fund. It's not a priority for them. What are their priorities? Going to states where they have their election. Dance, bribe people, bribe, buy votes. In Nigeria, under the Tinubu regime, it's no longer a crime. So they now do it openly. And they started in Lagos. We are far forgotten James Sophie. Because AD was the first party then. So it was a criminal offense. So you go there, they just simply say James okay. Because they couldn't do it in the open. Now it's open. And just look at what happened in Osun State. You are told by somebody that they spent 50 billion. Another person says 110 billion. Another one says 40 billion. You then ask yourself, but what it all means is that billions of naira that could have been deployed to improve the lives of the people were wasted on the day of the election. Wasted. And they won't come back until 4 years time. And that is why our people must fight criminals in our country when we are defending Cuba. Please comment. I think it's your turn, as they say.
Yes,
The positive way, comments.
I was very great. But I want to start by quoting from Fidel Castro himself. He said, the struggle of the workers against imperialism is one single struggle, whether it takes place in Cuba, in Africa, or Latin America. And his government stood on three things. The first one is anti-imperialism and sovereignty. Like Comrade FF already pointed out, we are talking about Nigerian problem, and we should let it on the global basis, so that when we are talking about Cuba, we will appreciate why we must stand with Cuba. And I remember Angola crisis. Even when African countries were against Cuba, Angola themselves, the mode of sovereignty and the independence of Angola started from Cuban struggle to liberate them. And it is clear, even as of today, they are standing with Sahara Democratic Republic. It shows clearly that there's no basis for humanity that want to struggle in order to defeat capitalism. And that this is what Cuba stood for. What is their major resources? Sugar cane. They are able to produce mass of doctors because of their education program. But when you look at it, in the midst of plenty Nigeria, both human capital resources and natural resources, we can say, sir, if I'm not mistaken, I remember that 78 when we were saying, in school days, we were saying that Nigeria is not for sale. Nigeria is not just for sale then, but Nigeria now is for sale. It's sold. Because what now reflect is that if today 20 million children are out of school, what that means is that just coming behind, we are going to produce mass uneducated people. And we are saying the youth are the leaders of tomorrow. These are the people we claim as the youth tomorrow. Go to any person today. There are two things that are very clear in Nigeria. The first is corruption. The second one is crisis. Whether in the health sector, whether in the education sector. Mention it. Everywhere there's crisis as a result of bad governance. We reflect this, and the revolution of Cuba does it reflects that there can be better there be better way of governance in the world. Because if Cuba is overthrown, it shows clearly that we're in perpetual poverty. We want our cause to reflect where the country can point to. Remember, for more than 50 years, the cost of the housing and everything that is free in Libya was consistently there. It shows that even with their little resources, we in Nigeria have a lot of resources. Whether you know, I read the SNFM, Punch of Second of Punch. I read there that in April and in March and April, government made a whopping 5.13 trillion because of the fight in Iran and between Iran and Cuba, I mean Iran and Israel. That is us extra. 5.1 trillion. Nobody is asking for the money to today this moment. I was thinking that the following day maybe government will come out to pick a case that record was not correct. Only for just 2 months. 5.13 trillion extra money. Working. Just going forth. From the oil sales he made. Don't forget, the oil the benchmark for the day was $68 per barrel. It gone up to $120. Just for 2 months. As actually nobody's accounting for that money. Beyond that, with the war, even when the price of the price of crude came down from the international market, at home here, domestically, we are still buying at very high price because we have it's a monopoly market dictated by just one single person. And this is in contrary, this is refers to what we have in Cuba, where the resources of the country belong to the resources of the people. People benefited from the profit. And that's why you're able to do what is free education, job for all, health, and the people service is for all. And they pull their lifespan at 79 years. That is the lifespan within that short period. 99, almost 100% literate within that short period of the government with little resources. We have a lot of resources here. What becomes of our resources when we have this kind of people in place? And that leads us to what we call another Nigeria is possible. Another Nigeria is possible if we get our business right. Internationalism, solidarity in Libya, Cuba does not just stop in a day. It's because of their planned program. It meant to make sure that the people, mass government belong to the people, not the other way around. Why the tiny cabal, less than 5% in Nigeria? The corner resources, more than 80% of our resources are within less than 5% of the workplace. So the message is clear. And what that message is that every one of us, the mass changing element of the country must stand with Cuba at this critical moment of time. And the challenge is clear. Like as we said in Nigeria, we must, at this critical moment of the period where Cuba is going to, we must stand with Cuba. And also, that was redouble our efforts collectively in making sure that we have access to basic necessity of life in Nigeria. Because it's a reflection of what we have in Nigeria and a reflection of what's going on everywhere. And where electricity supply accessible and available for all Nigeria is guaranteed. And we live a meaningful life. The resources of Nigeria must not be for resources of just few against. On this note, comrade, my union will send everybody that we need to start with Libya and we can do it. Making the donation of 400,000 naira.
Okay, thank you very much. That is a $3 million donation. And I think all of us have been challenged to contribute to that fund. Government has already launched the fund. I do hope that other unions, other conferences and groups will support the campaign. Now, this is hardly said. In the Cuban Revolution, when I talk of the revolution, I mean the attack on the Moncada barracks, civilians attacking the military barracks. In that struggle, led by a lawyer. In that struggle, you had the Filman Espin, Celia Sanchez, and A.D. Santa Maria. 2 women were involved out of the 22 comrades that invaded Moncada barracks. And that is why for Cuba, you cannot have a successful revolution without the intervention of women. The kind of comrade who has been referred to as the man of the revolution. Look at contribution coming on.
Thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to start by asking permission to sit while I give my presentation.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, comrades. First of all, for organizing this. It's important that we continue to hold the flag up. At first, most of us, when the Cuban ambassador was speaking, most of us didn't know that she was actually referring to Comrade Omotajo.
Yes.
And Comrade RMC. 2 of us who have passed on to the ancestral realm, but who were frontliners in this struggle for Cuban solidarity. Once upon a time, they used to sit here. Now they're sitting on the other side of the table in the ancestral realm. That's very important. The question of legacy. What do we leave behind? What have we done? I'm going to be trying to focus, on that. Because I think, just like Comrade FF was saying, speaking for myself, started in student union in 1983. You can calculate how far back that is. And, some of us are thankful to the ancestors that we have remained on the road of struggle. And that's very important, that we haven't taken one day off. And then the question then is, what is to be done? What still needs to be done? That is the most important question, before us today. Because we've heard the history, we've heard the politics, we've heard the analysis, we've heard the concrete actions. But how are we going to get to do this? We describe this neo-colonialists, in government, in power all over as criminals. Of course, they are criminals. So the point is, what are you going to do to those criminals? What are we going to do about them? Because certainly, just like Comrade FF has said, they're not going to change a single thing. And so the question then is, who will bail the cat? Who will do this revolution? Who will start it? Who will spark it? Who will make it manifest? And that's why in things like this, we've got to look inwards. We've got to ask the question, what is Affiong doing? Affiong must ask Affiong that question. You must ask yourself that question. Where am I in the picture of struggle? Where am I in the making of the revolution? It's not enough for us to come out, be educated, be informed, maybe be entertained. What are we doing? So that's my own concern, as always, in the question of struggle. What is to be done? When we speak about what the criminal neo-colonial elements do, just like the way they assembled in Oshun, in Oshogo, just before the elections. And some of us sort of speak of it in a sort of a casual way. They went there, they said this, they did that. Guess why they went to Oshun? They didn't just go there to rig elections. They didn't just go there to contest elections. They went there to look for power. That's why they went there, comrades.
They wanted to adapt.
I don't care. They went to look for power. That's the point. You like hijack it, you like grow it, you like steal it, you like make it, bake it, fry it, cook it, get some power. That's the point. So we can moralize from today till 100 years about them and how they get power. Go get some power.
They're very clear about it. And that's why Tinubu, even though he's not president as in all the faculties are not working, he's still looking for power. He's still hanging on to it. And then you see some of us, some very young, this, that, and the other, you ain't got no power. Any means necessary, like Malcolm X said. Any means necessary. So that's why they went to Oshobo. So when next we're talking about all the criminal things they do, the way they don't care about the people, the way they steal our resources, that's what they are holding on to. So who is going to wrench the power out of their hands? Who is going to challenge them? Who is going to fight them? Who is going to organize rebellion? Who? Is it only Comrade Falana that we're looking at? Because that's what most of us do. We want some things to fall on one person's head. And I'm using him as an example because it's, right next to me. So it's a very convenient example. Was it only Comrade Gani? Or who else, all the people that we have in our own tradition, because the obedience to, they think they have their own light bearers. The illusion that is one person that is going to bring power for us. But the issue of power resides in each and every one of us. Let me move on. I also wanted to highlight, because I think actually it was Comrade Falana that made the point, and I think the Cuban ambassador also tried to raise it. Do you know that during the slave trade, here in what we call Nigeria today, mainly from the port, in Nigeria there were two major areas. There were others. There was Badagry, the Badagry port, and there was Calabar. The vast majority of our people who were taken from there, they're not just taken from Calabar, they're taken from the hinterland, whether it's the Igbos or the Deltas, and then all these places we know today. They went to Cuba. A lot of them were, sent to Cuba. So a lot of the people in Cuba today, it's interesting. Well, those who have been, but the first time I saw an African Cuban, it was in Ghana when I was living in Ghana. She was an ambassador too, and she was sitting down. So I just assumed she was Ghanaian, And then they introduced her as the Cuban ambassador. I almost fell off my chair. She was so dark skinned, pure ebony black, 100% Cuban. That was an African sitting there. And unwanted blood, because over generations, if you marry or, it's mixed with races, you become lighter, yes. But these ones, you could see 100% African. So I'm wanting us to know that there are powerful things in history also that tie us down to Cuba. And up till today, in Cuba, they still do the ekpe dance. Those of us, like my dad is, cross-Siberian, they still do ekpe dance in Cuba. And the abang dance. So many things. Of course, that's one side. Of course, they still have the, Yoruba, Ifa, traditions. And those of you who've read, it's still so powerful out there. Ifa, Strongbo, they still hold on to their traditions. So I'm saying all of this to say, we are Cubans and Cubans are us. It's very important that we put these things in perspective. Those of us who are a bit older would remember that we used to have solidarity movements once upon a time, whether it was during apartheid, the apartheid movement, and indeed, Cuba in those days. The challenge for us today is going to be, and, obviously a few comrades have spoken about how to revive our solidarity movements, to be able to cover, all the other countries that we need to engage in active solidarity with. Because this also helps us to conscientize our young people. Certainly, some of us as young people, in the 80s, this is how we came into struggle by being involved, in this solidarity movement and gaining consciousness. I remember, going to university for the first time, 1983, as a young person. That was my first time of leaving home. And it was my first university in Ibadan. And you're going to campus and you're sitting down in the audience and just listening to all these things, parts of the world I never knew existed, struggles I knew nothing about, issues, and my mind was blown away. So after a while, and University of Ibadan is really massive, I was in social sciences. So on my way to class, I would see, then when they're having symposium, just, they put a notice on the wall. Do you know, instead of going to my own classes, I would see these different symposia on the walls of different faculties. I instinctively, I would go in there, so you go in, hide through the back, go through the back, just sit down quietly and listen. When the first speaker speaks, I'll be like, wow, what a powerful speaker. Then the second person will speak and say, oh my God, it's even better than the first one. And then the third one will be better than the second one. All this knowledge. And my classmates will be like, what happened? Where are you? My mind, my head used to literally expand from information with consciousness. And this was a teenager. I'm saying that that's how my journey started. And it's still on that, road. But it's now at a stage where we need to actualize things. We need to manifest things in our own rights. So we need to have a rebirth of our solidarity movement, and that means that each and every one of us who is listening must be actively involved. It's not that it's going to be done by Comrade Falana or those sitting on this side. No, you must take ownership of these things for it to really bubble up. Imagine if we had a powerful solidarity movement in this country. A lot of nonsense would not be able to happen, both in Nigeria and outside Nigeria. So I'm saying to each and every one of us listening today that we've got to take personal ownership of these issues in struggle, just like some of us did, as teenagers coming for the first time, in contact, with issues around struggle. Cuban, people have already spoken, and comrades have spoken earlier about the role of Cuba in our anti-colonial struggles here on the continent. And that is so true. That was very important. Cuba was there for us. I'm a Kwame Nkrumah scholar, and it allows me, I've been able to study in depth, about our liberation movement and the role, of other countries in that fight. I think that we must put ourselves back into history by letting people also talk about the role of Nigeria, contemporary Nigeria, in other people's struggles all over the world. That is extremely important. And God knows there's more than enough struggles, for us to get into. But also, I think it was Comrade Soweto that made a point earlier that the current attacks on Cuba are a perfect example of what imperialism will do to us when we begin to attempt to manifest our own sovereignty. Because right now, we're not a sovereign nation. We're not. We like to think we are, but we are not. And so that question is, what is the road? What is the pathway to becoming a sovereign nation? What is our agency? Every morning when I wake up, I ask myself, I feel, what is your agency? What is your role in struggle? Where are you located in that fight for a better Africa? This is how I question myself and challenge myself. And I'm urging us to do the same. Because quite often, some of us think that, oh, this person is better than me, is more educated than me, he speaks better than me, is in a better position. No! If you look at all our freedom fighters, they were ordinary people who did extraordinary things. Ordinary people who did extraordinary things. And that is you. And that can be you. And we all have those skills and that power and that fire inside all of us. We all have it. But some people refuse to light their fire. They want Jesus to come back and light it for them. And others are waiting for Muhammad to come back and light it for them. You got to light your fire now. I've said, that when a lot of times when people are speaking, especially in NGO settings, when they talk about democracy, they use America as an example. The first time I went to the States, I was, much younger. I think, still in high school. And it struck me, but I didn't understand what it was politically. The United States is actually a police state. When you say this, people think of East Germany and all these places. If you lived in the US for any time, the United States of America is a police state. Ask Black people in America to tell you what oppression is like. When the police go into, like if they go into an area like Ajegule in America, by the way, Ajegule, American. When they go into those communities, do you know what they do? They leave their engine running. The car is running. The policeman comes out walking, and their police are usually 6 feet bulgy, with their weapons. They're walking around, and the engine is running. Do you know what that means? That's intimidation. That coming to your hood. The engine is running. I'm ready for anything. That's the message the police is giving them. Nothing has happened though. They're just there. And coming from Nigeria, and I'm a terribly inquisitive person. Anybody who knows me personally, I walk up to them, excuse me, I ask, and they could tell that okay, this person is coming out from here. I said, is there a problem? I thought he'd forgotten. I said, you've forgotten, the try is running. It's not that really like this, Hey, okay, so I want to just get on what you're doing. Meaning mind your business. And it wasn't one, it wasn't two, all over in Black communities. And then they're standing there, and then when Black people are passing, they're like this. They stare you down. I know there's some young Black men, especially if they smoke a bit or they want to fight with police for nothing. They're just like this. So, and you are watched. Even in the UK, there are cameras on all the roads. So if you think you're escaping from DJ route to the gates, then they're in the control center. They're just watching you. So they're telling them, oh, she's now on so and so. She's moving west to so. That's how the police comes to get you. Cameras everywhere. So those of us who have illusions about Western society, being democratic society, we better wipe them out from our minds. So let's come back now to Nigeria. What are we going to do? Right now, as we speak, the official political election season just began, I think, about 2 days ago.
Yes, sir.
This is the highest level of consciousness in terms of a period in the country, that the vast majority of our people have about politics. What are we doing? This type of issues that are being discussed here, this is the time, if there is any other time, to raise these issues, to contextualize these issues. When I was coming, I think it was yesterday, I was sending the flyer around, and one of the candidates, wrote back to me. I said, Chairman, what's our business with Cubans? Because I sent it to a Labour Party platform. So he responded and said, what is our business with Cuba? I was so taken aback. I was so, if it was just like a general, I would have dismissed it. Labour Party platform challenged me. So what is our business with Cuba? So I answered back. If it was before, I would have been quite vicious. I mean, I'm sure most of you don't know me online. Most people think it's a guy they're dealing with actually online because the one man army, but now you're getting older and, I have to be nicer now because I'm the chairman of the so I got to behave like a lady, because now they know. Most people think, online they think it's a man that they're dealing with. So now, as soon as my identity is, cast, I have to start behaving accordingly. So I've changed. I'm a bit nicer. So I said, oh, you mean you don't understand the connection between Nigeria and Cuba? I can open my phone and show you. They want to be a couple. So, because I was tired anyway, but I just left it. So before I would have gone into a rage. Anyway, so seriously though, to politics. This is the political season. How many of us are involved in the political process here? Bankrupt as it may be. You use what you have to get what you want. Some of us are waiting for a full-fledged revolution before we start to engage our masses. Right now, our masses, the masses of our Mekunu and our Kalaka, they are discussing between, is it Peter Obi, is it Atiku, is it Amechi, is it Donald Duke, is it, who else is contesting? Somewhere, or whosoever else, we have on the ballot. Oh God, see, I forgot about you. So, this is what is happening. So, why don't we also put our issues on the political agenda in the country and say, actually, this is what needs to be, this is how it needs to be. So, the point I'm making is we need to be a bit more concrete. So, let me now give you some concrete information. I was going to say for the first time, but let me just, in the Labour Party right now, as we speak today, we have one of our comrades, one of us, who is on the ballot for the governorship of Lagos State. His name is Olarewaju Adeleke. Some of you know him as Larry Legacy. That is a comrade, it was, I think, was he a student union president in Ife? Yes, years ago. And so he's now on the ballot for governor of Lagos State. What is that going to do? It's going to give us an opportunity and the space to be able to challenge, these bankrupt elements here in Lagos publicly and to campaign amongst our people. And if we were all more organized, because I'm sorry, the left were not, we take things, in a such, where, we're not concerned. It's raising the flag, it's raising our people's consciousness. And I don't suffer from illusions in the electoral process, no, but I know it is a means to engaging our people's consciousness. And of course, we have, a few other candidates for our House of Assembly in the Labour Party. And we're trying to rebuild the Labour Party. But one of the things we're faced with inside the Labour Party is that the Labour Party is full of non-Labour elements. But it's full of non-Labour elements because the real Labour elements are sitting outside the Labour Party, waiting for revolution to come and meet them at home. That's what most of us are doing. So I'm really going to, ask us, to try and engage with the political process as it is going on and to utilize it as one of the means that we use, to raise our people's consciousness. Malcolm X says, is the ballot or the bullet? The ballot or the bullet? This is the ballot. When it comes to those who will organize the bullets, they won't have microphones in front of them.
And cameras.
And cameras, yes, absolutely. And it won't be, in the daytime either. But do we even have, even those of us listening, do we even have the courage to be part of the process of the bullet? Do we even have that? We have to ask ourselves that. Or are some aliens going to come, from somewhere else? Or maybe AI will come and do revolution for us. If you don't want to do the ballot, do the bullet. If you can't do the bullet, come and do the ballot. And leave Jesus, and Muhammad, out of this. So I'm going to run. So I'm saying all this, to really make us gain individual ownership of struggle inside us, inside our spirits. And when we talk about power, what is the definition of power? Maybe somebody, let me just quickly do that. Somebody to give me the definition of power quickly from the audience. What is power? What's power? Okay, sort of. Power is the ability and every other place all over has to deal. And then after a few weeks, they change the time back, and everybody deals with it. That's what power looks like. So when we sit here and we talk about the children are dying in hospital, the hospitals are mortuaries, the children are not in schools, it's because we don't have any power. But we have the capacity to have power. But we are not yet ready for that power. That's how we manifest. And let me just say, you see, we have what are the sockets in the wall, electrical sockets, yeah? Now you know that there is power inside that socket. Not so.
When there's light.
Yes. So we're assuming what's supposed to be. No. Stay with me now. Stay with me. There's power inside that socket.
Yes.
If you don't switch the socket on, what will happen? There will never be any power. And if you like, you can summon any powers from heaven for as long as you want to. There will not be power. But when you switch that socket on, that's when you get power. So you've got to switch on the socket inside your mind, because the mind is the most powerful engine ever created in humanity, more powerful than 500 nuclear weapons. Your mind. Once that power is switched on in your mind, all these discussions that we're having, they turn into nothing. Why? Because ain't nobody can stop you. Let me leave it there for now. Very good.
That was conference. When Comrade was talking about 1983, I'm sure you will know that we're talking of about 43 years ago. So when she tried to say that she's a young person, no man. She was also a victim in Unilag for challenging authoritarian control of the school by the authority. I think they seized your certificate.
You are they seized the certificate.
Yes, I had to get it for you. So we went to court, about 9 of them, they said they are graduated. Oh. They were to go for you service. The school said, no, we're not giving you your. They said, what's up? We said, now you get that. It's very wise now. So we went to court and the court said that was stupid. And that was how they got their certificate. She has been doing it for long. But for like 3 years, let us it's a lesson. Which is that our political party, Labour Party, is contesting and they are sponsoring governorship as well as other positions.
Sorry, Coming. Let me just say, I think there's one. I saw, I don't know if there's more than one. There's one of our House of Assembly candidates here in Oshodi Solo. Stand up, Comrade Oliver. One of our House of Assembly candidates in Oshodi Solo. Thank you.
Now, the point I'm making, it's not that we haven't contested the election in Lagos.
Yes, that's true.
Right? But the message is also important so that you are not seen as one of them. If you want people to make a difference, you must address the problems confronting them, like we're doing here.
Yeah.
So don't want a Labour Party that will say, what is Cuba? What is the relevance of Cuba? Our struggle. Which means we also have a lot of struggle to win. Exactly. But let me just say this. Comrade, you were saying that I was talking of 2 months, 5 trillion. In July, and you can Google it. These guys are just distributed. During the week, 3 trillion in July. Now, again, you can find out, you can Google. In April 2022, before the removal of fuel subsidy, what they shared, the 3,000 government was 655 billion. Today, it's 3 trillion. Yet, there is no noticeable improvement in the lives of our people. So we need to get these figures, particularly in Lagos State, we have the largest concentration of our corporates, so that we can do what we're doing in the past by challenging those who claim that they are in power. The man is coming as Lagos State governor under APC. He's asking your people to go and be living with their parents. No, please. It's not a last minute. It's not a last minute. Let me tell you, please, go and find out. Please, the Lagos State government under the APC has spent hundreds of billions of naira to build houses for the rich. None of those houses, some of them, cost as much as 200 million naira per unit. In Lagos State, in this Lagos, 79-83, a governor built 30,000 housing units, affordable to the poor. 30,000 in 4 years. The houses being built now by the Lagos State government cannot be bought by civil servants unless they have stolen money. And they're asking you, go and live with your parents. Government houses are not for you. That's the implication. And therefore, if we're going to challenge them and you want to contest for power under this system, you must be able to join issues with them. And tell them to stop insulting our people. Insulting our people. When their grandfather was in power as governor of Lagos, and they started building estates for the rich. And I asked the governor, Governor Tinubu, why are you building houses for the rich? They can go to the bank or a mortgage institution. You are supposed to build houses for the people. You know, he's cleverer than them. Say, we know you are social. We shall build for the, take the money to come and build for the poor. Up to now, 27 years later, they haven't built for the poor. But I understand my sister to be saying, we need to snatch power. We need to contest for power. Under this neo-colonial system, no, please, there were Yalakaras who educated their children in this country. Right? But there's no Yalakara today who can educate it or check. It's not possible. I mean, there's no Yalakara that can send any child to school. Because these guys have devalued the currency at the instant as instigated by IMF and World Bank. Do you understand what I'm saying? So please, Congress, let us take the question of power seriously, but under a different ideological framework. Now, legacy has to go around, meet our people, share your message, and let us see what happens at the end of the day. And that's what I've told you. You can't say you are contesting, whether we like it or not. There's no way we're going to embrace the other guy. But again, you have to do your homework, and that is important. And I know you will do your homework. Come Malaki, you're also a lawyer. Fidel Castro was a lawyer. I think you would just put in 5 minutes before we go to the audit. Thank you, Come.
Very kind of you, sir. First is to apologize for my little lateness. I was in another program. When I saw FF message, he said, you must be here. I don't think it's something like that. Among the organizers should be appreciated. And the reason is so simple. This is our own cathedral where we renew the basis of our conviction.
And usually, I also like to learn, come quietly and hear our comrades. Because if we are humble and sincere enough, you will find that those who have spoken are speaking from their hearts. And if that is all that matters, we will change the dynamics and move the mountains. But the reason we continually contest these ideas is because so much more needs to be done. But once we are focused and remain indeed focused on the goals, chances are that we'll get them. Which is why our slogan is victory what? Assert. Now, having said that, please, since I have the privilege of the microphone now, I like to provoke us a bit. I won't be too long in doing this. You know, we're not just celebrating Fidel's Centenary. We are celebrating the intentionality of their own struggles. They were clear. There was this courage of conviction and clarity as to where they were headed. The challenges notwithstanding, just as we have in our own country. Sewoto has walked away, but
It's not working.
Not the rest. I'm not sure he will hear me. I have it there too. But the message I took from him, just as I took from everyone who has spoken before me, is the need for solidarity. Realizing that we can't do it alone. And that the more collaborations, the more networking, and the more acceptance of the irreducible programs of our actions that we have, the more assured that when we kick off, we'll finish and press the tape. And then it challenges us to look in the direction of the labor comrade that also mattered. But you know,
Continue.
I hope they
I hear you.
But you know, when Comrade Afion talked about the Labour Party member to the need for this celebration, you could see the level and the depth of the crisis. If a Labour Party member can sincerely, you know the level of the work that needs to be done. And that brings me to the premium we pay and give to Labour. We've got Africans bumped so often. Do we need them? We do. Can they actually be available for this struggle that they ought to champion? Yes, they are. Are they there? No.
Are we there?
Are we there? Nobody know. So on both sides, we're burning the candle. But you know, suggestions have been made in the past, and I'll drop them here. At a critical point in our struggle, the idea of last week was introduced.
Yeah.
How we couldn't continue and maximize that idea remains a challenge that we need to resolve, because it was an idea that was at the heart of dealing with that challenge that was seen.
Yeah.
Secondly, you know, it is not in all times that you have optimal operation of these centers of struggle. It's not in all times. It is in the nature of the struggle that it fluctuates. What is important is the focus. For that reason, we can be looking at the vibrant affiliate organs of this same labor. We have gotten, I'm not sure it's in place, he said he will give Is it not 500,000?
Yes.
Is that labor?
Yes.
That is affiliate of
NS.
Teams. In the same way, those of us in the legal profession are saying that instead of outsourcing this whole thing to them, they mess it up from inception. Why not be there to guide them so that the outcome of what they do will reduce our responsibilities? I come to the second point as I try to round off. To say that there is a superstructure of this crisis that we are not exactly characterizing as it is. And that is that the African solidarity you ask for and desperately desire is already challenged by other layers of the infiltrations that dilute our struggle. I'm glad you are here. So we have moved from xenophobia now in South Africa, isn't it? We are now in Afrophobia. And that should trigger a red flag. In a way that also challenges the proposal that both comrades Soweto and Dhaka are making in terms of the collaboration and solidarity that we need. So, how much of these internal contradictions we need to be resolved first before we aim at leveraging that regional collaborations that must happen to give us an edge when the time comes? I needed to point out this because in so many respects, the more we delay this revolution and action, the more it generates other layers of crisis that complicate and compound the process. In fact, for those with lesser force of conviction, it turns them into being complicit of the same crisis. That this kind of, I say it's our own cathedral. That's what you lose if you don't come for programs like this. Yeah. For me, I like to come not just early, to listen to our people. If you hear what every person has said, you will know that in theoretical terms, we don't need any further analysis.
Exactly.
All that is remaining is how to maximize and operationalize what we already have. And it's not just about talking, these things are documented. If you don't know, I know, I have them. They are documented. We have these programs, and they were developed decades ago. So why haven't we been able to? At some time, I remember, fresh from the universities, my boss here, contested the election in about the same time, Shehu was somewhere in Osun State. Bamidele was in a different political party, Lagos. Between Obadi and Co. Dr. Ferrari and so on and so forth. I remember doing an article with them.
And we're giving up.
It was titled The Emerging Progressive Politics and the Imperatives of Consensus Building. What I was actually trying to push out there was that save and until that consensus is built around that program, and the intervention is such that galvanizes all that need to be in that team, we will go there to legitimize what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it appears several decades after.
Yes.
That is what we are doing. So I'm here to solidarize, but to also make the point that we won't stop. We will continue to expand the frontiers of this discussion, but to gain from the experiences that we all had. And if you look at us here, I'm 50, by December I'll be 55 years. I used to feel invincible. I used to feel invisible, but not so. It's all my son is here. Please, can I stand up? I'm here. Sit down. Thank you. Amen. Sit down. Amen. I'm here. What I wish you carry on with.
Yeah.
Because an entire life I've gone into, coming to tell you about his own. We started this rebel in Delta State, even when we're not sure whether we would still be alive. And as a twin, I used to say, what if it happens to me? I'm also existed somehow. So let me just start going. Thank you. Young man. Okay. I'll call you. For that, the young man who just spoke. With 55 in December. Only. When some of us are here, you don't shakara about your age. Anyway, the gentleman who just spoke was expelled from his university. We also had to go to Enugu to save him. That's why he's a lawyer. So we have a tribe of expelled people. The Senate leader now was also expelled from Uniben, or Gaga and Forwardo, Luke and Adeno, and the rest of them. We're happy that in the midst of it all, we still have people who can be proud of, who have been as constant as the Northern Star in the struggle of our people. I've been informed that there is a medical doctor here who trained in Cuba. And we're going to invite him to address us for 5 minutes. Dr. Shida Tommy. Doctor. Please give me the microphone. No, you meant that. Okay. Just give me the microphone.
Good afternoon. Comrade, you have put me on the spot. Baba, it's an honor to address this. I don't know what to call it now. This is it August? But I think that is a very special gathering. Actually, yes, that's true. We're in August, and this is an August gathering. When Ambassador had told me that she was coming, she said centenary of for Fidel's birthday thing, and I said, okay, I did a write up that I would like to read through quickly. I would like to say that I feel very lucky to be here, listening to powerful presentations by everybody that has been on the high table. We have spoken things that are real. My message, the thing I wrote up about Fidel was basically going back to understanding why all of us are human beings. And what for me was the reason, in French, they say raison d'être, the reason for being. So yes, as Baba said, I am fortunate, I am lucky, I'm grateful to be one of the few Nigerians that was able to enjoy the privilege of living, of first qualifying, being able to study and in Cuba and live with its people. And I ended up doing that for 15 years. So I went there in September 2000 and I left in June 2016. I finished my program in December 2015 and finally left in 2015. I'm going to read through what I wrote, but I want to say that every other thing that we have spoken about here, I've listened properly to everybody. is based on the fundamental that all of us have life, every other person has a life as well, but some of us sometimes want to trample on the lives of others. The situation with Cuba is somebody standing on the neck of somebody in the United States and the people and Marco Rubio and other people standing on the neck of Cubans. Why? Because they decide that we shall not be oppressed. So permit me to read quickly. Yes, I have 5 minutes, but I'll be fast. Okay, so posthumous happy birthday to eternal Commandante Fidel Castro. To celebrate Fidel Castro rules on the occasion of his posthumous 100th birthday is to celebrate some stellar virtues that all men should be made of. There are men and there are men. Some men live life unaccounted. Some men live and make great impacts in the lives of other human beings. Significant, time-tested, enduring, long-lasting legacy impacts. Fidel's was one life of supreme impact, an impact that not only taught Cuba and its people, but traveled across the shores and borders of the biggest of the archipelagos of the Caribbean Antilles to all nooks and crannies of the world, from Africa to the Americas to Asia to Europe, both Eastern and Western Europe, and across the Pacific Oceans. Fidel's character of humane considerations steeped deep in considering the well-being of others, caring for others, solidarity for others, fighting for the just cause of others, and solidarity with others, especially the oppressed of the world. These are virtues that all humans must cultivate and ensure never dies, because we must all be our brother's keepers. The greatest wealth we all can have is our families, our friends, and all those around us and their well-being and welfare. This should always be our priorities. In Nigeria, one of our popular musicians, global icons, in King Sonny says, "Eniyolasho Yimi." For me, I translate that to mean that my people are my clothes and treasure. Looking out for everyone should be our purpose of being. The welfare and well-being of the Cuban people and the peoples of the world was always the guiding principle and priority of purpose for the great Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz. Born 13th of August 1926 in the Great Eastern Province of Holguin in Cuba, he was born into affluence, as his father was a rich man who had means and had farmlands and cattle and appreciable wealth. But nevertheless, Fidel and his siblings were brought up with such values that taught that they had to be humane, caring, and look out for the welfare of others, as well as eschew injustice. These are the virtues that the world is losing gradually every day. Some want to usurp the will of others to the right to live properly and independently. And that should not be. Independent states should be independent and be allowed to determine how they decide to live their lives. Yes, help can be given, but nobody nor country should be obligated to act away from its sovereignty. The world should fight like Fidel did in the Asalto a Moncada, the Moncada assault, the revolt in 1953, to liberate the oppressed and also stand up for the rights of the oppressed with courage and bravery, like Fidel did when he defended himself in the ever famous and memorable law case that Prof referred to, La Historia me absolverá, history shall absolve me. In defense of humanity and the welfare of others, history shall absolve us. Happy posthumous 100th birthday, Comandante Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz. Viva Fidel! Viva! Viva Cuba! Viva! Viva Nigeria! Viva! Viva a better world for humanity. Viva! When we all fight for the well-being of every other person, we shall fight such that we do not have any set of people constitute themselves as an oligarchy to oppress the rest of us. That is why we must continue. I agree with the conversations here. We must go and get Power. Through getting our PVCs, I'm going to express our franchise. Let me confess, and I'll say it, I see the videos are here. 2019, I struggled and ensured I came back to town. I was outside at a particular point in time. Just to vote. Coincidentally, was for Shiwure then. I stood in line. First, of course, the election was postponed, but I stood in line. 1 week later, or 2 weeks later, we did the voting. And at the end of the day, they were counting the votes after 6 morning, after 6, and they say AAC 0 votes. And I know I mean Tommy Fashion or Lord Tommy Becker Fashion. I stood in that place and I voted. But guess what? We shall not give up. If I say because they took my vote and they made rubbish of it, I will not. It is not true. We must stand up. And as Comrade Effiong said, it is not the duty of only 1 or 2 or 3 persons. It's the duty of everybody. Thank you very much.
Can we give Doctor, we need to live up after the program. I think it's important. That was what Fidel said, that when mind and are the same idea, nothing can separate them, not even the cement. You are very right that Fidel's father was very rich. In fact, in Latin America, they call them latifundists, those who own large estates. Kind of here, they are land grabbers here. Fidel committed class suicide to lead a revolution against his father and others. And I think all of us to have a duty to decide our fate. Comrades, I think we need to have some reaction from the public, just for the next 10 minutes or thereabout. Yes, we have a message from one of our comrades that will be read to us now.
Okay, comrades, I want to read the message as sent by Comrade Pinga Komolape, who is the General Secretary of Federation of Informal Workers of Nigeria. So it goes on. It said, I join millions of working people and all lovers of justice all over the world, and I'm comrades in the house to celebrate the memory of Comandante Fidel Castro on this occasion of the centenary of the death of the great leader, Fidel, as fondly called during his lifetime until now. Remains a great inspiration for all lovers of social justice and equitable development. We remain thankfully in solidarity with the Cuban people at this time of unprecedented war unleashed on them by the increasingly arrogant US imperialism under President Donald Trump. We also order Nigerians and indeed all people of the world to organize and mount all necessary mass revolutionary pressures on the US to stop its aggression towards Cuba. Viva Fidel! Viva Cuba! Viva Africa! Viva! We shall win. My warm regards to comrades, Ambassador, Comrade Chair, Falana, and all other comrades in the house. Viva!
Thank you. Yes, please. Think there's somebody. Yes, come on. Let's make it 2 minutes so that we have. Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you.
In solidarity with Fidel's centenary anniversary, 2 things came to mind. One was political, while the other one is resistance. Why am I talking about political? Because to have been mentioned there, by most of the speakers, especially Madam Effiong, who once contested 2 other NCP. Who wants to contest other NCP? And likewise, I remember vividly in 2003 that my Oga FF contested in Ekiti as the governor under the same party NCP. And we have a lot of our comrades at one time or the other contested. FA contested for governor for your state. Later on, after the Latif Abbasi era in NCP, Lanre Anogowade also came on board, contested as the people's governor in Lagos State. But you have challenges. But those challenges that we have faced as of that time, is still staring at our faces till today. What are those challenges? The electorate themselves, the people we are fighting for every day and night, they are not in tune and they are not in line with our belief. They are not even in line with our ideology and the principle that we take to them. You see, so this is a problem that I'm seeing. How do we overcome this problem? To those people on the other end of that table, I leave that question to you. Why the resistance is this? In time past, when some of us came to the barricade, the people we met at the barricades out of that time, the way they take the resistance is not the way you are seeing it today. Then we have 7 of them at the barricade. We call them barricade generals. The back of this work, the Gani Fahimi, Baba Omojola, and now Akaba Shorun, Tai Sholari. You see? And then the living legends among them, in the prof, Wole Soyinka. These are the 5 barricade generals. When you see them, the consciousness in you, you see, will be changed, will be different. But today, we don't have that consciousness again. How do you revitalize those consciousness? In not every one of us that are sitting down here. I learn from them. You see, so from this struggle of Fidel, there are lots for us to learn in this room. You see, how did they come about that revolution? How did they come about their resistance that they were able to come in uniform and they were able to sustain the imperialism of the Americans? You see, Viva Fidel, Viva Africa.
Yes, yes. We'll react to your comments, please.
Comrade Alagwa, and one. I think I want to appeal to those of us in this room. Me, I don't understand much of English, but I believe if we want to put to use what we have learned, I've learned 1 or 2 things, is to leave this place like the Samuel Adams said, towards the independence of the United States of America from the British people. We are to live here, be on the street, either from here to Oban, and leave that as a mark with the banner in front that we have attended something here. It's to create this consciousness within this environment that something takes place. 2, because I could remember from what I read that Samuel Adams and the rest of them, they locked the door where the decision to liberate America from Britain was taken. They locked the door and said, today I'm going to swallow this key if something do not happen today. And that was how America was liberated from Britain. So if we are not going to make it a tough stop, like some of our leaders have said, we live here, just a walk with a banner. The people around will begin to look at what is happening, because outside there, I don't think people on the road there know what we are doing. So, secondly, there are problems, just like Madam Afionga said. There are big problems that this thing can solve. I think we need to educate ourselves here more. My brother has just spoken of people outside, yes, they don't understand what we are saying. Ideology doesn't mean anything to them. Instant reward, I'm hungry, stomach infrastructure, just that's the mentality. But within us, who believe we know much and we have all the certificates in the world, we have problems within ourselves. And the little I've read about Fidel Castro, maybe by accident, I read through a friend. And I understand within that movement then that they are not what we are as we are here. Their own movement, their own thinking, their own solidarity is not the same thing. Even this all where we are divided into more than 50, 100 different kind of human beings, different kind of thinking. And if we don't take it from that point, and we are just knowing grammar. Me, I don't understand much of grammar. But what I understand is that if it is only people that are here, if we can have our names on register with our phone number, and we can be meeting either here or elsewhere, and first understand and orientate ourselves and be of one mind, then we can make progress. Thank you.
Okay, I think before saying anything, I must first of all commend all. Thank you so very much. And what I have to say is about when Madam says something about collection of power, we must stand up to take back power. And that took me back to my initial thinking. Taking of power, you said either by ballot or by bullets, which is revolution, which we all understand, which is the idea we all stood by. So if I just only want to make a suggestion that if we are to take over this power by ballot, there is process for it. Is either we take over by ballot or by bullets. In any means, who are the people that are meant to take over this power? It is the worker. The workers, the rank and file of workers are to take over the power. So what is the process? We already having green lights in the NLC, which is the NLC is gradually moving towards the left. Yes, we are now having confidence that the Labour Party, sorry, not the NLC, the Labour Party is gradually moving towards the left. Yes, the Labour Party, I want to say. So, how are we mobilizing? Who are we mobilizing into the Labour Party? I think, so to my own understanding, I think we just have to mobilize the rank and file. I mean, the issue of the bureaucrats need to be leave aside and let us mobilize the rank and file, which is the common people of the NLC into the not only to now organize or mobilize them. What is the basis, like the political education we are giving them for them to understand what they stands for? Thank you so much. Oh, okay.
Okay, let me ask you one question.
All right. Solidarity. I want to really commend and appreciate the speakers and everybody who has actually spoken here. And I think I have something similar. I thought the comrade that spoke there was actually going to help me expunge it totally. But when I realized that, okay, he did not really eat it well, so I thought of talking myself. Um, if we are going to be realistic, it is always good, right from my undergraduate days, the Buffalo University. I've always enjoyed being in the left movement as campus journalists. They used to even victimize us, being supporters of the left. Eventually, I became president. I was almost suspended twice. Not and what used to call us that time was left sympathizers because ACJ did not just come about all over the university. So and I and I rose to the point that okay, after school, I've always been in the midst of the left organization. Who I have to speak now, I pride myself to be a friend, not even friend. I have absorbed the ideology of socialism, which is very, very sweet. And I know that that's the solution. Just like John was talking the other time, that's the solution. That's like, we can't be mixing things up. We can't be saying that we are heading towards change, reform, while the existing ideology that is thriving in our society is capitalism. But I have a problem, sir, and it's even good that you are here. I'm always using it amongst my people. The problem is that in the left, there is too much of division. Whether we like it or not, there is too much of division. And I look at it, we have sectarianism all around, different organizations. If the actual left people were supposed to, the people that I know, even in my own generation, they were supposed to be alive here today. This place should not even occupy us. But you see, when you talk to these people and they keep giving some of us problems, because when you talk to some people, they will quickly, some will say, I don't want to mention any school of thought now. So it's not like I'm mentioning people, but we all understand this. To the point that when we will go to the protest ground, so I work in an organization that supports this ideology, of course. And every now and then, I'm allowed to even go out to be at the protest that the last protest that we had on June 12th. We were there together, sir. But you will see division, even at the barricade. There was a particular protest that we had that some people divided the barricade. Some went ahead and some were left isolated. Right before we got to Ojota, and we continue to have issues like that. And whenever we caught, especially the young ones, because whether you like it or not, the young generation is going gradually. Yes, the younger ones that are energetic, that can do more than what you did. Because going to be fair, you have a whole lot about what you did. Of course, I work with someone who was into students, and not only that, even when he left, was into all the social justice campaign in this country. But you see, I don't think it is possible if we have a whole lot of sectarianism and elders like you are looking at us. Because how many of us, that's one of us that I say, how many of us are you socialists in this country? Look at the number of the capitalists, these people. Someone won election in a whole party. He went to meet military of PDP. They took his certificate to President Bola Tinubu or APC, telling that these people are in the same social class. They understand their ideological pattern. Whatever they are doing, that you are claiming that we want another ideology. We are fighting among to accept it is happening, sir. Seriously, and I wish that there will be a particular resolution that will take everybody together again. Yeah. Seriously, otherwise, I feel like we're just. I've read a lot about Fidel Castro. I've read a lot about them in you. Read a lot to Joel State. I read about what everybody has done. I am mingled with you. But if you want to replicate all of these things, the unity that you push here against the military injustice, that time, you put all your differences aside. If you do not put that aside down, down, you are going to have any change. And that's the condition.
Solidarity. Good afternoon, comrades. My name is Comrade Suleiman Pema. Suleiman Pema with the Nigerian Movement for the Liberation of Western Sahara. Yeah, I most sincerely would like to commend my leaders seated over there. And also, I would like to sincerely also appreciate the opportunity to be part of this forum. Our corporate leader, Comrade Fidel Falana, thank you very much for always giving us this opportunity to learn, to get enlightened about struggles. My comrade that spoke last raised a very fundamental issue. I think we, the younger generation, I think the problem is from us. Why am I saying that? I am with the Nigerian Movement for the Liberation of Western Sahara. The Western Sahara territory is the last colony in Africa. This very movement of solidarity with Cuba, the very core of it, the founding fathers of it, they are seated right over there. Comrade Femi Falana, Comrade Malaki, Cuban. They were also core to the founding of the movement for the liberation of Western Sahara. We are talking about solidarity here. But we always try to create divisions. When we look at their generations, their own generation, every progressive struggle, they are with it. They always carry that struggle along. If it is a progressive struggle, they are always in it. So the point I'm making here is that we must imbibe that very spirit of solidarity and carry it along. It's not just in words, but we must put it into action. I thank you once again for this opportunity.
solidarity.
Thank you.
No, after you.
Let us
Gender balance, Shama. I can actually want to start finish.
I'm happy to be here. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm happy to be here. Actually, I want to add to what my comrade has said. I think when I was with comrade RMC, I went to Abuja. So there was a time one of the comrade was talking about how during their own set they organize programs, training for the young people. Fine, the young people are aware, but let me ask this question. I'm probably sorry. So young people have been told to be aware. I mean, they are aware for years. Awareness without actions, organized and resources and collective resistance can still will still make the problem the same. Now, the question here is that we don't need a generation that is informed. No, we need a generation that is conscious and organized. And how can it be organized? Is when the older comrade comes together and mentor us, like give us like a leadership role, like collective leadership from you guys. Let us learn, like so that then that's when unity will come, because you guys know how you solve your differences then. So the coming now many young people are very hungry with, I mean, they are hungry with power. So even if they are conscious and they are aware of what is wrong, but when they see little temptation, they move. So, like you guys were, at least many people were tense during your own time. How do you overcome it? So that's why we need more of your mentorship and leadership, so that the young people also do not pretend to you that we need a lot of people.
Thank you. You see how my sister here. What is your problem with this book? So let me
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for being such a feminist. Yes, I'll keep my question very brief. It seems like right now there's a concerted efforts all over the world from the reactionaries to make sure that young people remain disengaged and uninformed. You see it online. I saw a post the other day from the US Embassy. They have a new position or a new post. Somebody in labor whose job it is to gather influencers and get them to posting nonsense really, brain rot, slop, AI slop, just, and that's what they're encouraging young people to do. So my question really is, what is the strategy from the left to actually get young people thinking and, like another comment just said, trained around socialist ideas rather than allowing them to be surrendered to this, there was this whole thing about Olodo uprising. I'm sure Gwyneth has seen it, but that's what we have on social media now, and that's what the average young person is getting their ideas from. We don't have leftist media in Nigeria that are really popular and trending and whatever. So what is the activity or strategy from the left to make sure that young people actually learn these ideas?
Because we have always a very thought-provoking solidarity species in celebration of Fidel. Let me just add this in order to escalate what Congress will have to say as we are reading culture. Populating our youth with literature that has to do with identical training, because we don't have that today in circulation. I remember when I was in Unilag and I was contesting for student union leader. Immediately I emerged because I collected a book from our leader, RMC, While We Struck, written by Wega, While We Struck. That was the history of the first military in Nigeria. Immediately I emerged, I will not return the book because of some campus activities. I actually have to send one of our comrades to me. The interesting I was with a girlfriend, we were discussing. I said, comrade, I actually said, Ricardo, if you cannot return this book, it's better you get lost or you return the book. That you can get lost, but the book I gave you must not be get lost. But when the lady said, I can be lost, but the book must not be lost. And then you may not understand the metaphor of the statement. That was important
he plays on the written culture. The book, we don't joke with book, but these days, I feel like most of our community don't read.
Yeah.
It was important we buy the culture of reading. Because after revolution, what next?
Yeah.
That's my
That's the
lesson.
most important thing.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I actually just have a very short message from the Embark Governance movement in Lagos State, which has been a significant rally point for a young generation of conscious citizens. And I think we need to grow that platform. You have done very well for us, sir. Everybody who is conscious in this country understands the role that SAN Falana has played in making sure that we have a generation of people who have fought for this country. It is now incumbent on our own generation. I'm 42. And we have to rescue this country because there's no rescue. We are our own rescue. So, on this special day, we have a message from the head governors, very short. I'll be very comrade, distinguished speakers, fellow activists, friends and the people, friends of the people. I am deeply honored to stand before you today as a representative of the Embark Governance movement in Lagos at this commemoration marking the centenary of Fidel Castro. Let me begin by acknowledging the organizers for creating a platform where we can reflect on the meaning of revolution, resistance, solidarity, and the struggle for a better society. Fidel Castro remained one of the most consequential and controversial political figures of the 20th century. His legacy continues to generate strong debates, admiration from some, criticism from others, particularly regarding political freedom and human rights. But history is not meant to be worshipped. History is meant to be studied. And for us as Africans, as Nigerians, and as young citizens demanding better governance, there are important lessons to examine. The first is power of ordinary people to challenge systems that they believe has failed them. The second is the importance of national sovereignty and the determination to build institutions that serves the people. The third is that political change must ultimately translate into improvements in the lives of ordinary citizens, in education, in healthcare, in employment, in housing, dignity, and economic opportunity. These are issues that remain deeply relevant to the Nigerians of today. When young people demand affordable education, decent job, accessible healthcare, security, accountability, and responsible leadership, they are not asking for miracles. They are asking for government that works. The Embark Governance movement represents that legitimate desire for a Nigeria where public resources are used for the public good, where citizens are treated with dignity, where leadership is accountable, and where no Nigerian is condemned to poverty simply because of the circumstances of their birth. But our own struggle must also learn from history. We must understand that revolution without institution can become another form of oppression. Resistance without responsibility can become destruction. And political power without accountability can reproduce the very injustice it was created to defeat. Therefore, our generation must pursue a different kind of transformation, one that is combined, one that combines courage with democracy, activism with responsibility, social justice with economic opportunity, and political freedom with accountable leadership. We do not need to copy another country's history. Nigeria must write its own. Our revolution must be a revolution of ideas, competence, character, and capacity. It must be a revolution that moves Nigeria from survival to prosperity, from corruption to accountability, from exclusion to opportunity, and from political promise to measurable results. As we remember Fidel Castro and the historical struggle associated with its generation, let us also remember that the ultimate measure of any political movement is the quality of life created for the people. Let us, before continue to stand for justice, let us continue to demand accountability. Let us continue to defend the dignity of the Nigerian people. And let us continue to build a Nigeria where government truly belongs to the people and the working and work for the people. This struggle for a better Nigeria continues. And Luther continues.
Thank you, comrade. Please, I think we need to. Okay, I'll call you. Yes, please, another name.
Okay.
Please allow her.
This is wonderful.
Please allow her.
Solidarity.
Forever.
Solidarity.
Forever.
Validating this from ACC. So, first of all, thank you to the speakers here today and to everyone that has contributed. So, what I want to say, actually, I didn't plan to contribute. I just came to listen. Well, then, when my colleague here spoke about division, and she too, I said maybe I should say something too. So, this issue of division is something we need to take very serious, like very, very serious. The society, we are fighting for the same cause, but still we are divided. One time there was a protest and I had somebody, a comrade, to follow me to the protest, right? We should go together. And she said that I cannot go because the protest was not organized by my own society. Can you imagine? And we are fighting for the same cause. So if there is division within parts, the capitalists, the other people will not take us serious. So the division is too much. We need to fix things within us so that when we speak, these people can listen. So that's what I have to say. Thank you very much.
I want to express my. Yes, 5 minutes. To thank all. Doctor, are you living? No, sir. Okay. I want to thank all the great contributions, and then we are going to all members of the high table. If you have reaction, but I know that Afan, you want to say something. Yes. Okay. I also understand people are want to speak.
Yeah, two of them.
Oh, two of them.
Yeah, and Fagua.
Oh. Is it Baba?
Yes, two of them want to speak.
Okay. Let them make it good. Yeah, can we listen to them? Baba, you first.
Hello. Yes, I hear you.
What's the way to Bluetooth? Is it pick the pipe? That's fine. Okay, sir.
Can we put the second
No,
one?
process. No. Sorry.
What's up?
Yes, 1 second.
Okay. Please, let's listen. Okay, can we bring you up Comrade Fagua for 1 minute? Thank you. HK Africa. Can we have Fagua for 1 minute? Fagua, can you meet and speak? Hello, Fagua. Okay, since it's not on show. Thank you very much, Comrade Africa. It's something for 2 minutes.
Just quickly, I'd like to say, first of all, I'm so impressed and happy with the amount, the number of women who stood up to speak this afternoon. I'm so happy. I cannot imagine how, and the reason I'm happy, and of course, I have to thank the feminists sitting next to me here, for pushing that through. But on a serious note, usually at meetings, women don't want to speak because of the societal upbringing, the patriarchal, they just think, oh, speaking is for men, and they have 101 ideas in their head, but they will not stand up and articulate this. We need to begin to do that. Own the space. Empty your mind out into the public, articulate things, build your own confidence. Nobody will build it for you. Nobody. Build it yourself. Be strong. And yes, there needs to be more mentoring, so that you're in organizations, that you even learn about other women in history. That's where I gain my strength from. Learning about women in history, what they've gone through, what they did, just even here in Nigeria. Gambo Sawaba. If you haven't heard that name, go and study her. Don't just read. Study what happened to her. Fumilayo Ransom Kuti. A lot of us, know about her. But there's also Margaret Ekpo. These are women fighters in this country. Let them inspire you. And women all over the world. It's funny, I was just doing this for something else. I'm just going to take a minute and run through some women's names that you need to go and study. Winnie Mandela, we know her. Mbuya Nehanda, she was, a spiritualist that mobilized the Zimbabweans in their struggle for liberation. Amy Jakes Garvey, the wife of Marcus Garvey. Nzinga Asata, the freedom fighter from Angola. Amina from Zaria here. This same north, that is a conservative place today, had women leaders. Amina was a warrior queen, meaning she wasn't in the palace, she was on horseback in war. A woman, a Hausa woman, before religion came to block our brains. I've mentioned Gambo Sawaba, I've mentioned Margaret Ekpo, Santewa of Ghana. Ancient Ghana, when the men would not fight, she stood up and challenged the British. Mary Makiba, she was an artist, a musician, but her music was liberation music, to open up our minds. The Amazons of Dahomey, these were fighters, soldiers in centuries gone back. And today they tell you that, oh, African women, you are in the house. Women used to be full-time soldiers. Soldiers. Now we don't have women who go into war. They say, no, it's the kitchen, don't go into war. We have women soldiers. Josina Machel, the wife of Samora Machel from Mozambique. She died at the age of 27. Her AK-47 was like her Gucci bag. The way we wear our fashion bag. That's how she used to wear her AK-47. And she died, in their war for liberation. Josina Machel. Check some of these names online that I'm mentioning. Claudia Jones, she was from Trinidad and Tobago. You had Nanny of the Maroons from Jamaica. She, fought against the, slavery, and they formed colonies in what we now know today as Jamaica. You have Gitongo. She was in the Mau Mau. Field Marshal Gitongo, a soldier, a warrior in their, fight for, liberation. It's extremely important that as women and men, you know this history at your fingertips, that this history is in your mind, that it activates your spirit. These are the things that make you strong and become fearless. And just a few more names, well, we all know Idia, Queen Idia, those who know Nigerian history, Moremi, Harriet Tubman of the United States, they call her Black Moses, Sojourner Truth. So many, people in history. So I just wanted to encourage you. So thank you very much, the women who spoke, and all the men, the he for she's, for me personally, and coming from, let's just say this. Me personally, the three people who inspire me in terms of women's struggles happen to be three men. Samora Machel. And there's a long thing, and we can have that another day. If anybody's organizing anything around women, let's talk about that. What's his name? Thomas Sankara and Sekou Touré. Some of the most powerful feminists that you will ever come across. These three names. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's wait. Let's say about Sankara. Every Wednesday, men had to go to the market. Every Wednesday, men had to go to the market in Burkina Faso so that they could understand what women were going through in going to the market, right? Started paternity leave and the rest of them. Not just maternity leave alone, you know. So we still, I don't know what. Okay, let me just react. Therefore, to some of the issues that have been raised. Uh, Comrade Fidel Castro was not a member of the Communist Party of Cuba in 1953. He was in the a national lawyer. He was a lawyer, a big-time lawyer. As you have been told, his father was very rich, so they made him a lawyer. He was a member of the Anti-Corruption Orthodox Party. It was after the revolution that the Communist Party and their own party had to back, you know. So the point of, and Fidel was 27 when they struck in 1953. 27. So he was 27. His younger brother, Raul, he was 22. And I just told you, we are 3 women in that brigade. So it's not about age. And it's not about uniting everybody. No, 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 no. It's not about uniting all the organizations. You're not going to have that. I mean, you talk of the political parties, I mean, of the right, the usual political parties, they are also divided. So it doesn't matter. But whoever is able to get power, others are then forced.
That's right.
They fall in.
But there are areas where they don't fight. In sharing oil blocks. No, no, no. Those who have no oil blocks now are being given licensing to mine solid minerals. And some of those solid minerals are much more expensive than oil. They are distributing among themselves in those areas. Even Lebanese now, like Shaguri. Tinubu gave Shaguri the second highest national honor. GCY. So it's not about tribe or race. It's about what has tied them together. Now, without making a justification for different organizations in the land, and if you study the history of the land, it has to do with trends and convictions. Whether you believe in Stanley, Marx or Mao, and so on and so forth. I work with somebody, Alao Kabasho, was always referred to by his contemporary as Chama Mao. I can't finish his law. Like this is coming out in a book. For 5 years, he was involved in the revolution. Wasn't going to be caught at the bar. Wasn't caught at the bar in the UK. He came to Nigeria in 1961. He finished in 58, and then was going all over the world. And I went to a farm in Topo in Badagry because of his belief in the role of the Christian in this struggle. So we always have various strengths. But when it came to fighting for the country, the members of the Nigerian youth movement, the labor movements and the rest of them were together when we were fighting the Anglo-Nigerian Defense Party. They were united. In spite of our division, we had divisions under the military. Yeah. But when it came to fighting for restoration of democracy, we worked together. After the protests or whatever, you go back to your different positions. The same thing, we just had a protest on June 12th. Regardless of trends, we also united. And I remember that day, the most moving aspect for me was that when we were going to Ojota, my son called me aside, that you guys were involved in this kind of struggle for years ago. I said, well, it's your turn now to take over. He said, well, you and mom, you are here. I said, yes. Because we haven't succeeded. We should be home now while you are leading. But there are people who also feel if Falana is there, maybe 1 or 2 people will come. That's why I'm here. Now, the point I'm making is that in our homes, we have differences, even about the way forward for our country. But that should not in any way prevent us from, I mean, we are celebrating Fidel today, in spite of all our divisions. We have people here, the Labour Party, we have ANC, even on our own side. So, but we need to, as I've said to our comrade, well, after whatever, we still need to convince our people. You need to take on issues. Of course, I'm not of the Labour Party, but if there is an election today, in fact, 2023, one of my daughters called from UK and told the mom, yes, mom, check it, I think for chair, Senate here. Well, we want you to vote for Obi. My wife said, why Obi? He said, well, but for the fact that my husband has just picked up a job, we are coming to Nigeria to vote for him. And a lot of people, I'm not going to talk to my dad. I know he's likely to vote for Shewore. Even that's in the home. So we have some differences. But when it comes to discussing the future of Nigeria, we also believe that all of us have a role to play. Now, on whether people reject us coming, it's not quite true. One mistake I can accept publicly was after our experience in 2023, we went back.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Yeah.
That for me is an error. Now, if we had continued, there's no way I wouldn't have been governor of Ekiti by now. It would have been difficult for any of these characters to chase me out of town. Because in 2003, comrade, 2003, the ruling party, AG, was giving one slot in the House of Assembly. ICP was also giving one slot in Ekiti.
Yeah.
Are you with me, coming? Yes. So if we are the ruling party that control the house, by the time Obasanjo said they were walloping the Southwest, they said, okay, this one, if we say he didn't win his local government, there will be a problem. So let's concede one. It's 26-member house. So they gave us one, gave 81. For me, if we had continued, it would have been in Lagos here. Go and look at the votes called by our people. Like Arugundade and other. In some areas, it became third.
Yes. In fact, for the local government.
Yeah. So, but for me, we can replicate that. We can go back to the drawing table and dictate what will happen in this country. But let me just announce that. Yeah. But comrade, can I just announce that following these concerns that have been raised, and I did say this when we're burying Comrade Aremu, that we shouldn't be meeting in burials alone, uniting to bury our comrade. What can we do together? And there and then, we agreed that we should bring all our groups together again. And that process is almost concluded. Very soon, we are going to launch a movement along this line. Even to dictate what should happen, the kind of agenda we are going to force politicians to discuss. So it's not about money, distributing money, because you will change them out if you bring out an idea. But it's not that the ordinary people are rejecting us. What efforts are we making to join issues with members of the ruling class when they are keeping our people divided? Are you with me? Yes. Because it's a battle of ideas. But we have relaxed. And then the other one, please come and go was accept errors there. The human rights are taking that. Created problem for our people. Following the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
Socialism became, one thing. It became unquote unattractive. So it was at that time we're now discussing human rights. But even in the human rights struggle, many of us also continue to insist that human rights are not in the air. They are not in value. There is also class issue. Are you with me? There is what they call assassination. Even the words, the language of law is class biased. If you kill a poor man, they say you have been murdered. If you kill a big man, it's assassination. You understand me? When a poor man is on the street walking, they say it's wandering. If it's a big man, they say it's strength. One is a criminal offense, the other one, is some mess. He wants to lose weight. So, that's the language of the law. Hundred Western Sahara Liberation Movement. Our struggle is in financial. In Western Sahara, that is the last colonial enclave in Africa. And in September 22, against freedom, and we got a judgment where they organized the right of the Western Sahara people to self-determination and mandate to do everything possible to ensure that the people of Western Sahara realize their independence. So we were still there. And therefore, I would like to thank all our comrades for your contribution. Just I want to join my sister in commending our women in programs like this. In programs like this, why not the men of school? They say, can we have one for gender balance? How can that be gender balance? Even on our table now, we're also wrong. Yes. My sister president is almost optimistic. That should not be so. Unless next time we're organizing a program of this nature, they are about the gender balance. In Africa today, this is important for us. In Africa today, there are about 3 countries that have equality in the cabinet of gender. South Africa, Ethiopia, and Rwanda. Right? Our own is almost the least today in Africa. In the parliament in Abuja, almost like 4%. Whereas other countries, 50% and the rest of them. And the only state in Nigeria that reflects gender balance in their cabinet is Kwara State. Surprising. 50%. Wow. Yeah. Kwara State is the only state. It's the only state. But let me just say this about women. This is our struggle. This society is patriarchal. Yeah. We start from the home. Yes. Every woman is looking for a male or a boy that will be in charge of the house. Are you? Yes. One.